experience. This can be one-on-one accountability meetings, events on the online resources we have, and much more. We are located in the Student Center, 101 102, across from the Still office. Remember, T-Birds, you are not alone.
Rescue me, rescue me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's main event.
Where's the Friday?
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
So, another Friday is upon us.
WTF. I'm Rob Birdsey. Welcome to my Friday show. Where's the Friday? I have a star-studded, action-packed group of people coming in. We're kicking it off with Shaun Gutting, and you guys can catch us on YouTube. If you look up Widowed, Trio, and Freedom. So that's Widowed, I'm a widowed dad. Trio, I have two little boys. Freedom, I'm doing this for the freedom. If you go there to YouTube right now, you'll see the little live pending circle around my logo that my wife used to draw for me. So if you click on that, you'll be able to check it out and you'll be able to see what we're up to. So Shaun, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just speak really close to that microphone
sorry.
there. Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, welcome to come in. It's, so you're an assistant coach,
Yes, sir.
and you guys got some pretty good stuff brewing down there, huh?
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
This is my second year here at SUU with Coach Jeter. We're really excited about the potential this group has this year. So hopefully we'll at least have a lot of fun while we're doing it.
Great. Where are you from?
I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado. I was born in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And then I've been probably about 3 or 4 different places since then with my coaching career and everything. So been all over the region, New Mexico, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah. So
Wow.
pretty familiar with the area.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I've
Yes.
traveled I've done a lot of, I used to do sales through a car, you know what I
okay.
mean? But I used to just drive everywhere, especially when you get up in Wyoming and places like that, man, it's gorgeous up there, eh?
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of time to think.
A lot of-
I'll tell you that.
A lot of time to think. Audiobooks, yeah. No, I enjoyed that too. So for you to, what's your age, if you don't mind me asking?
What's that?
What's your age?
I am 36 years old.
Oh, wow.
I had to practice saying that because I
Nah.
said I was 35 for, it felt like 3 years. But yeah, 36. Started coaching college basketball when I was 24, 25 years old.
Wow.
At a junior college in New Mexico. And then I've bounced around the last 11 years. So this would be my 12th season of coaching
Yeah.
college basketball.
What put you on that path of coaching? I mean, you're not the tallest person. You know what I mean? I don't mean
No offense. It's pretty standard. I get that. Most people see me walking around. They don't think I'm a basketball coach. They
Yeah.
usually guess wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You look like
I got
you'd
the
be a
frame
great
for
wrestler.
it, I guess. No, my dad was as a high school coach. He was a coach in college for a little bit. My older brother was a really good basketball player all through high school and college.
Wow.
And it's just always run through the family. My grandpa was a big high school basketball player and loved it after that, and it kind of just ran through. And but I grew up in the gym. I mean, my dad he had us on the court with him at all times, showing up to practices as little kids and up all the way through adulthood. And, I knew probably around 16, 17 years old that I was going to end up coaching. I was a decent player. I don't want to say I was great, but I was
Sure.
a decent player. And I learned pretty quickly that being a 5'8", slower guy, you're probably not going to be the one that goes on past college playing. So, I decided to coach early, and it's been my passion and my dream ever since.
Wow, that's really cool. So and you say passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw passion before you knew what it was.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's straight up from your dad.
Yeah, and I was very lucky. There's a lot of guys in this business who do have that experience. It's a family business, but there's a lot of guys that don't, and they don't know what it's like to really grow up in a family like that. And just the benefits of realizing, what you love so early, and also being around you know, a guy like my dad who made it really easy to enjoy it. You know, he was hard on us, but it was never unfair.
Sure.
You know, he knew what he was trying to prepare us for.
Yeah, I don't know. You talk about hard. I mean, that's a different time, really. You know, I've got 10 years on you, but it was the
You
same.
don't look a day over 30. Come on, Rob.
Dude, I appreciate it. This is the stress from my wife dying, so you know that's why I got the little billy goat geared. You know, there's something to be said about when I was growing up. Yeah, sure, my stepfather, he was pretty hard-headed with most things, but there was an uncle and a couple of good friends on the sidelines that were exactly the same too. They had done pretty good things in their life, you know what I mean, but they were very stern and very forceful in many ways.
Right.
But you know what I mean, and mostly out of all of it, it would scare you into most, you know, like, oh man, I'm going to get my butt whooped. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel like we're missing that this day and age.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm growing up my little boys, and I'm trying my best not to yell and scream and come undone when you know, when there's pressure cooking moments. For the most part, guys, I do pretty good.
Right.
The rest of it, I'm sorry.
Not everybody's perfect.
I have
man.
noticed that every time I do cross lines and I get a bit ouchy with the boys, I will always reel myself in and correct myself. But at the same token, I kind of feel like they need to a good dose of fear is good to have, especially when you're growing. You know what I mean? Like, because if you don't fear the logic of your father, especially if he's a logical person, you know what I mean? Like then that's going to throw you in a whole different. I suppose what we're in hot water now with life, but let's not worry about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely some truth to it. There's a balance to it, right?
There is
balance. You want to
yeah.
make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, like, hey, man, I was afraid to let him down. I was afraid to, you know, those things, right? Like,
Yep.
I think truly when you have an individual, whether it's a coach, parent, uncle, somebody that you know who, at the end of the day, truly cares, that's why they get fiery and passionate.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to end up being okay.
There's no joke about that, man. You know, even with my boys, I've got them in pretty heavily into jiu-jitsu. They do four nights of jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And I talk about this all the time, so sorry. But, you know, that's what they do. They do that. They do piano. I have them into a gym class doing, like, all the parkour stuff, you know. And I believe out of those, these are the times for them to learn their body. Do you know what I mean? Their brain will catch up with them later on. We'll attack that when it gets here. But yeah, no, I'm the same, man. If I'm disappointed, I let them know I'm disappointed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't say much when I'm disappointed, and it just rocks their world. But then I'll sit down afterwards and be like, hey, you know, you guys could have done so much better. And if you tell me that you did your best, I know you're lying.
Right.
No, I didn't do my best. It's like, thank you. You know, you know.
Yeah, you know, and that's something that we're spending a lot of time, you know, especially at the junior college level. We get guys that come play for us that are at a really vulnerable time in their life. They're 18 years old, 19 years old. Most of the guys at that level, you know, they thought they were going to be Division I players, and for one reason or another, academics or whatever it is, they're not. And, you know, we're the guys that are trying to kind of reel them back in and help them realize, you know, you're in this situation because of yourself.
Yeah.
And how are you going to fix it?
Take responsibility.
You know, and I think, honestly, it translates to our level, too. You know, we have players that are really, really good kids, and for one reason or another, their life might have gone this way or that way. Why aren't you being successful? You know, you might have been successful to get here. Are you going to keep being successful to stay here, right? And that's something that we, you know, harp on as a staff. We care about. Coach Jeter cares about more than just, you know, the player as a basketball player.
Yeah.
He wants these guys to grow, mature, improve, you know, and we have a mixture of guys from 18 all the way up to 24, and it's going to look different for each kid.
Yeah, there's something to be said to be well-rounded in life is the best way to attack any one thing.
Right.
You know, I mean, you need to have compassion on so many levels, and you need to understand that when it takes hard work, what's that hard work that you're going to use to take it? You know what I mean? And most people don't have that, man. You know, like they shoot from the hip and they think everything's fine, and it's just it's safe to be fine. And I hate that people do that. Yeah, go for it. You know, stake your claim. Like really charge and go.
You can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, you can't. No, and man, that's a hard one. That one, It's like, like the Batman movies where you hear like there's mayhem going on and you hear that noise and it's just ramping up.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens with your life as you get older.
Right.
Right? So you start ignoring it when you're young and you're like, I'll be fine, I've got plenty of time, because you always think you got plenty of time. And then that time starts ticking, that clock gets louder and that noise is getting louder and louder and it sort of starts hitting you pretty hard. You know what I mean? Like I've always been a person that... Man, I've always shot for the moon and hopefully I'll land amongst the stars, but I've fallen flat on my face a bunch of times and I keep getting up and I keep dusting myself and I keep trying, you know what I mean? But this last one, when my wife passed away, it was a hard reset.
I can only imagine.
And I didn't know if I was going to come out of it, man. Like I thought I would just be, that was humbling enough just to be a nothing and a nobody and just sort of crawl behind the shadows type thing and just cruise through life. Until one day I woke up out of all my depression and went, nah, we're going to do this.
It becomes a choice.
It's a total choice.
I think it's something that's so tragic like that. You have to allow yourself the time to grieve. Yeah. Go through. It's a real process.
Yeah.
And going through it and then realizing you're strong enough to get through anything. I mean, that's a conversation we try to have as often as we can, and it's the deeper meaning to whatever we're doing with athletics, whether it's a basketball coach, football, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're gonna fail.
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys got to be ready to fail.
Yeah.
Because guess what? In 20 years, when you're not playing your sport anymore, something like that could happen to you. How are you going to handle it?
Yeah.
Right? You have to handle it for kids, for other people, be a family man, work, whatever it is. Like, you have to handle your relationships that are still there.
Yeah. It's funny. That's when I first kicked off this show, I was just bringing individual people in. And only to find that they didn't have the credentials enough to understand what I'm trying to push my point across.
Sure.
My point is, the main point of this show is we can all do hard things.
Yeah,
right. And there's all variations of hard, and it's all very, very tricky. But the one thing that's naturally inbuilt, and most players don't get it, is they're already up there doing hard things. Right. And what did it take for them to get there? So sometimes I get it. That's part of the reason why I've sort of based it around people like yourself that are going for a set standard, and they bring it on. So for me, it was almost like a happy accident. Just meeting with Tennessee. And he's just been great. We've been building a bond, and now it's just. I mean, you guys probably see him. He's always hassling someone to get on my show.
I love it.
But it's perfect. Because. It gives me a chance to talk with if you bring someone here, and you can see some of my interviews, they're a little timid and they don't understand it as much.
Right.
By the time they leave, I've educated them on something.
That,
do you know what I mean?
You're passionate about.
Yeah. Even by the time we leave, like they come out of their show, we talk for another 5 minutes after we get off the air. It's like, man, this should have been on the air.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're finally opened up. So hopefully when they come back again, we'll get a better result out of them. But I think it's good because you have that standard. You're going after hard things, and most people, man, it's kind of like myself. I mean, I've always been going after hard things, and I've failed so many times before. And I mean, I'm sure that was all just a conditioning experience to get to where my wife passed away. And when my wife passed away, I was 2020. For the next 3 years, I took my money, what little money I had left, and I would just travel with the boys when I could, and then lay low when I needed to. We got a very cheap place where I live, and I truly appreciate it. I couldn't have done what I've done, and it's just been, sometimes you just need that time out to lick your wounds, gather your thoughts. And then it was like I tried to go back to work, and a couple of jobs failed, and it was really hard. And then I kept driving past this university, and it just sparkled. I promise you it did. Yeah. And only to come here, and it's just like I opened that door, and you don't see what's beyond it. Right. And you have an idea of what you want to do, and actually, it just exploded. Right. And here I am. I took my first class of doing the radio stuff, and I'm like, there's no way I'm getting on radio, man. I'm dropping this class. Right. And now here I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yep. So no, I'm very thankful for Ryan and for how he's helped me get to this point, and people like yourself coming in. I mean, it's something. Some of those things are like you only get that through age and experience. Yeah. Right? Whatever the experiences are, but as we get older, you realize, like you said, you become okay with a cheap place because it has whatever you need. Yeah. Right. Things like that. Those are examples that like our
when you're 20, 21, 22 years old, you have such a thought process for your future, as you should.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, the dreams and the goals, and those just shift as you get older.
They really do.
And, you know, I think a lot of that comes from how do you handle, like you said, doing hard things. How do you handle situations that don't go your way?
Yeah.
Because most of this life's not going to go your way.
And I promise you it won't. And life's not. I tell my boys all the time, as good as this all looks, it ain't easy. And we live in an RV.
Right.
You know what I mean?
right.
Like it's the way I've got it set up is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's still an RV. You know what I mean?
right.
Like we're licking our wounds and trying to. You know, I can't wait until we can get out of that thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Could always be worse though.
Oh,
right?
it could be way worse. I mean, I got offered to go into an apartment, and the state would help me out. And it ended up working out to be that I'd still have to pay $800 a month, and all this jazz. But then I'll be living in an apartment with a bunch of other less desirable people that I don't want my kids raising around.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a different standard of life, and I'm so glad that I stuck with that, because now my boys have got the full gamut. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and I've had plenty of help along the way too. You know, like to get him into jiu-jitsu, I couldn't afford it. And there's this amazing person, which he doesn't want me to say his name, but if you ever listen to this, I'm so thankful, so thankful.
He knows
You've
who it
touched my
is.
heart in
Yep.
so many times, you know what I mean? And for the last 2 years, I mean, he paid for their jiu-jitsu.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
that's $200 a month, you know what I
Right.
mean? And he's an ex-military man, and I just appreciate him so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's the little things like that sort of get you back on your path. But once I unlock myself here, you know what I mean? That's now I'm bouncing out of it all, which is fantastic.
Right.
How your path to getting into coaching, right? So you played ball and you're decent, right? We'll say you're decent, good,
For a
whatever.
high school player, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So did you go play ball in college or?
I knew because I was going to coach
Yeah.
at the time, I decided to try and just go to a bigger university and just try and become a student assistant coach, student manager. You know, I had a couple options to go play small college, you know, junior college, a couple D3s and a couple D2s, but I just knew what I was going to do at the time.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it a different way and just, you know, start working with the team. So I went to the University of Kansas for 2 years, and then I finished at Colorado State, which is the town I grew up in Fort Collins.
Oh,
and
nice.
Worked for the men's basketball team there. And Tim Miles, who was the head coach at the time, he's now the head coach at San Jose State. He gave me a chance as a student assistant. It's actually crazy, that coaching staff at the time. One of the assistants was Craig Smith, who's now the head coach at University of Utah in Salt Lake.
Wow.
Another assistant is now the head coach at Colorado State. One of the other assistants, DeMarlo Slocum, is at University of Washington. I mean, you go down the list. Randy Baruth is a head coach at Division II in Saginaw, Michigan. I mean, these guys were all people that ended up becoming head coaches or had opportunities to. And I was, you know, a 21-year-old fly on the wall just watching them.
Perfect.
You know, and then I got very lucky after college, and one of my old high school coaches had got a position at New Mexico Junior College as the head coach. And, you know, I learned really quickly after college that your opportunities can be limited. You don't, you know, the world doesn't owe you anything. I was thinking at the time, because I was working at a Division I school as a student manager, I'd have jobs lined up after. And that just wasn't the case, not at the level that I thought. You know, so people helped me to get into the junior college ranks, and James Miller, who was my mentor and one of my closest friends, he gave me a job at New Mexico Junior College, and, you know, as a volunteer assistant. I mean, I didn't get paid.
Wow. See, that it's
know,
those moments, right?
Lucky enough, I would live for free, and I got meals at the cafeteria at New Mexico JC. But, you know, that's how I made things pass. Got another job on the side, you know, when I could. So it was one of those things where I had made a decision. Like, I knew I wanted to do this. This was my dream. What's it going to take to get there? I got to be willing to do some stuff. And luckily, my parents were very supportive throughout that whole scenario, knowing that I didn't make barely any money for about 2 years when I was, you know, 24 years old, 25 years old.
Wow. 2 years.
Yeah. It was about a year and a half. And Coach Miller and a couple of these other people did whatever they could to help me where they could, knowing that, hey, the next job is going to, be the one that gets you money, gets you paid. And they were right. I got an assistant job, and then I ended up becoming the head coach at Casper College. And, my journey's been very interesting with that. But,
How was that?
Yeah. It was, Casper is a really great place.
That's
People
Wyoming,
there are
right?
amazing, right? People there care. The job was a challenge, right? To be a head coach, it's always challenging. Every decision is yours.
Yeah.
Your assistants are there. They always say this in the coaching profession. Once you slide over from the assistant to the head coaching chair, it's the longest 6-inch slide over you've ever seen. I mean, it is tough, right? Because it all becomes on you. And I'm very glad and fortunate I went through that experience.
Yeah, no, that probably hasn't unraveled probably for another 10 years for you, where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. I think you're in a great situation. Coach Jeter is amazing, right? Like that's
great guy to work for.
Very
unbelievable
calm
history with coaching, very successful in multiple places. Still passionate for it like he was, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He's got the same passion, the same fight, and he cares about helping his staff get better, and I look at every experience I have in this coaching thing is hopefully something that will help me to my next head coaching opportunity if I'm lucky enough to ever get one.
That's awesome.
The Casper, New Mexico Junior College, Southern Utah, all these things, they're all great learning experiences.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. Like I said, that went unravel for a while, but it's definitely something to expose you at such a young age too. Mm-hmm. That's pretty unique.
Yeah.
I don't think too many people get them. I mean, unless you're really good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, clearly you have credentials, and I just wanted to touch too also the fact that you knew what you wanted to do, right?
It's rare.
Now it's so rare. It's so hard. It's half the battle of anyone that's going to do something great out there. Is 9 times out of 10 they pin it and they say that's mine. And that's what I'm going for.
Right.
And that's it's like Elon did that with PayPal and other things leading up to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly he's a different thought on another zone, but it's the same sort of situation I've noticed in this life. It's like when I was trying to be an actor in Hollywood, mm-hmm. I think the hardest thing for me is I'm a very accomplished builder. I can do some really crafty things.
Right.
So it was, do I take the path of starving myself, or I won't do these auditions. I'll go for this.
Right.
Where I think that's where I failed in a sense, because I didn't take what you did and went, you know what, I'm just going to make this work.
This is what I'm committed to.
Yeah.
It's been scary. I'll tell you
it's so
that.
hard.
It's
so hard.
There's definitely been some times where you sit there and wonder, am I doing the right thing? But also, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
I think everybody who's healthy has a little bit of self-doubt and can fight through that. And I still have that, as a 36-year-old guy who's been fairly successful at this. Like it happens all the time. But we talk about it with our players during practice and trying to develop disciplined habits.
Yeah.
And when things get hard and tough, falling back on your habits, usually you'll end up being successful with that. And there's all kinds of different types of success. It might not even be necessarily the way that you think you'll be successful, right?
Yeah.
But I think there was a mode to me learning that and knowing that in my mid-20s and heading into my 30s, that when things were hard, I'm very comfortable knowing what I can and can't do and what I want to do.
Yeah. Grant Cardone talks about it. He mentions it. I've listened to a lot of his books. I think he's just a very inspirational talker.
Sure.
Period. But he's like, when you're down and out, and you're at rock bottom, you know what I mean, there is no place for you to go except for up. And the best thing about being on rock bottom is you got the strongest foundation to build. You know, I'm doing that right now, man. I live off $1,300 a month.
Right.
I don't get any other. I mean, I have had a couple of grants from school, which has been a scholarship. Sorry, that's been great.
Good, yeah.
So I'm super thankful for that. And those people out there, they know who they are, and I'm very, very thankful. But to get like that's I'm 45 years old doing that journey right now, which
And
is
it's
like
almost like a reset,
it's
right?
a hard reset.
And,
hard reset.
You know, when you were 22, you'd probably look at people like that were doing that like they're crazy.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Whereas now you're probably like,
No.
this is doable.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and I've even had a couple of jobs along the side. Like, hey, do you want to come over here and we'll do a quick job? You could do this bathroom, bang it out, and make 10 grand. You know what I mean? And but what would suffer? I have a time period, and I have school, and I have. It's like I can't do it, man.
Right.
And I won't. I've made that decision, and I've
'Cause
said
it'd
my
be the-
prayers,
it'd
and
be
it's
the
like
easy way to earn, but it's not what
I'm
you want to
sending
try and
it.
pursue right now.
Yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done. And you know what? Matthew McConaughey did the same thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did that. Did you hear about that? He was always known as the romantic com guy, a
Right.
rom-com guy.
Yep.
Until he said, I don't want to do these anymore. You know what I mean? And they bled him out for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey. Man, it's such
keep
an
living,
inspirational.
man.
That's that. Yeah. But that's when he got Dallas Buyers Club.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And got his Oscar and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
You can't write it. So what are you willing to pay the price for? What is it that you really, really want? And is the price doable? You know, can you cough it up?
Yeah. Are you willing to sacrifice what's, you know, for his situation or whatever?
Yeah.
What's the easiest way that you've earned money and been successful?
Yeah.
But is it really what you want to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like he wanted to prove something. And, you know, you see stories of actors that do that and fail, I feel like, all the time. But they probably wouldn't trade it for anything. Right?
No.
Like they tried doing it the way they want to, you know? I mean, if McConaughey hadn't done that, we hadn't got the first season of True Detective, which is the best TV that maybe has ever been made, right?
Yeah.
You know,
He's something else, isn't he?
Yeah.
Have you read his book? You should read his book,
haven't,
man. Oh,
no.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Green Lights.
Okay.
Shout out to Green Lights. That book, anyone that wants a really good laugh. I mean, even if you just do the Audible and listen to him speak, it's just so great. He come from a very hard family too. Like his dad was a hard man, and he taught him the hard ways. So he's got that instilled in him. I think I love bios. I love telling people stories. You know what I mean? I think that's something that's a lost art, and I feel like we don't do it enough of. So yeah, I appreciate that.
It's hard for people to talk about themselves, man. Like I don't like doing it. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Hence, that's why you have a person that helps, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I hope I can be the liaison there.
Yeah, man. I always think we talk about that with our coaching staff. We were just talking about this yesterday. There's so many great stories of things that have happened during, you know, coaches' careers with players, athletes, funny things you would never think of happening. And, you know, I'm 12 years into this, and I'm like, man, this would have made a great book. Like, I can't believe I wasn't writing these stories down in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only coach in the country who thinks that way.
Do it.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's pulling the curtain back on some of the things you got to deal with at times.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard thing to do. Nobody
Just change names and you'll be fine.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, just change names.
Yeah,
Somebody
won't
like,
be
I know
binary.
who that is. It's not your name.
Hopefully nobody sees this interview if that book comes out.
I'll be reading it. I want a first copy. I promise you that. No, it's great. So you took those hits, and I mean, it wasn't just 2 years straight without getting paid. That's 2 years of donated work, right? Before the leading into that, though, are you a student or you were an assistant coach coming into that?
So coming into that at Colorado State, I was a student. And got my degree there in communication studies, got a minor in history. You know, being born in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, you kind of have it just in you that you have to be a history nerd.
have to know something. Especially
My
Gettysburg.
dad and mom both would probably call themselves history nerds too, so it was a family thing.
Shout out to mom and dad.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, so I was a student at Colorado State when I was working with the team there, and then graduated. And then when I did the 2 years of volunteer work, I wasn't a student. I had already graduated by then.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I was, worked like a...
So that's what got you the in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going back to grad school and getting a master's in education.
Oh, okay.
Sports management.
Done.
Yeah, I did that while I was coaching about those first 4 years or so. It took
Yeah.
me about 2 years to do it, but
Okay.
yeah, I did that once I started actually earning a little bit of money. I was able to pay for it a little bit. So
Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah.
No, it's great to see that arc of what you did. I mean, because like what are we learning right now, folks? Is we're learning there's 2 years of hardness, but there's also 4 years of building. 4 years of building, so you could prove your 2 years of hardness, and then it's the stepping stone from that point onwards that you were lucky enough to land some gigs and start building yourself.
And you've touched on it multiple times, but you don't really recognize until later all the people that helped you.
Oh man.
And how appreciative you can be of that, and
Yep.
people that just go out of their way
Yep.
to help you. They don't have to do those things.
Yeah, not at all.
It's something that I take seriously as somebody who at least has some sort of an established career now with this. Trying to pay it forward, and young guys that are in the same situation.
Yeah.
Graduate assistants or whoever, in this business that are trying to get their foot in the door, how can we help? How can I help you with those things? And, I really try to open myself up to that as much as I can, and I could probably even do better at it.
Yeah.
Luckily in the coaching world, there's a lot of companies and programs that are, set up to help with young coaches, rising coaches, even Brandon Goebel with JUCO Advocate, guys like that who have been around college coaching for a long time in the basketball world, that are always willing to try and help younger guys.
Yeah. No, there's no joke. I'm starting to build a little repertoire of a small group of key people here that are doing this. Like Tennessee's one of them.
Right.
Coach Tracy is another. Even the head coach Delane. He's he's been helping me too. And man, I just feel like I hate leaning on them to ask them, but they're also always so gracious. Oh yeah, no worries, we got you.
It's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the more communication and time spent in these mediums, they help our players get more people to show up. I mean, like our guys deserve to have great fans.
Oh, absolutely.
They're great kids. They play really hard. They do what they can. They're trying to get better all the time. They deserve people to come support them. And honestly, like, what else are you going to do on a Thursday night in Cedar Cities?
Man.
When it starts to snow and everything, man, like, what are you doing?
You guys should be here.
Yeah, come up to the games.
Because they're good games.
Yeah,
and this
it'll be a lot of
lineup
fun.
is so strong. Like, I'm serious. You guys got something brewing.
Yeah.
Just, I promise you, every person that's been here has a little twinkle in their eye. You guys have something this year.
Yeah. There's definitely potential. Great kids, great guys that have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
So hopefully that goes the right direction. But, we really feel like we're taking steps towards what our goal was as a staff and as a program and a culture. Really making this the way that Coach Jeter envisions it and what the university wants to represent them.
Yeah. No, that's so awesome. So as far as you always saw the path, so you always knew what you were going to do. Was it a heartbreaking experience of the conversion of being a player and then coming to the realization of I'm probably not good enough? Because that's heart-wrenching, man, because you've just done everything you possibly can.
I think I was, it wasn't like a knee-jerk moment. It was probably a build-up, knowing with my experience being around the game longer that just, like there's levels to this, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to know what you're meant to do. I still miss playing.
Sure.
That never goes away, really. I think everybody on our staff talks about that. I mean, that's why we play intramural basketball every now and then, as a coaching staff, because it's like, hey, man, like I want to get out there and play a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, we remember how sore it feels and how out of shape we are, and I immediately decide maybe this isn't for me anymore. But yeah, when you're a young kid, you think, hey man, I'm just gonna play forever,
Yeah.
right? Whatever your sport is, and I was thinking that for basketball at the time. And there was a slow build up of knowing like how I was going to be able to give back to this game and be a part of this game moving forward. So it was a little heart wrenching. I wouldn't say I was probably one of the rare ones where it wasn't heartbreaking,
Yeah.
but you see it in other people a lot. Because the reality is at some point for all of us in this game, the ball is going to stop bouncing, and you're going to have to kind of move on with whatever way you want to or can.
Yeah.
And that's part of the growth of being a human, being a person, being
Yeah.
a grown-up. What are we building you towards? Are we building you towards just playing and trying to win games, or are we building you towards being productive when it's done? And there's balance to that, and I think I was one of the lucky ones with not having the depression set in when I was done playing, because I was able to fall back and do this.
Yeah. That comes from other things too. Like have you, throughout your life, when you come up against challenges and things like that, have you learnt to deal with things differently than most, do you think? Because some people don't.
100%.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I definitely think there is a lot of value to playing team sports.
Yeah.
Even if kids don't like it or for whatever reason, I think they have to experience it.
Yep.
Doing something as a group. I think it makes you a better employee as an adult, makes you a better person, because you can empathize with those around you. You are can read human beings, you can read people, know when they're comfortable, uncomfortable, and you know how to fight through scenarios, because when you don't play team sports, you're not forced to get along with people for a bigger goal than yourself.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the passion I still have for college coaching and just basketball in general, is that it's amazing to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Right? My attitude and effort and focus, if it's a bad day and I don't have it, it affects 20 other people immediately.
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta take that jacket off and hang it up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's so hard.
The players, the coaches, they're expecting something from me every day.
Yeah.
I'm expecting something from them every day. And we all have these expectations of each other because of what we're doing. And ultimately, I think that it helps so much when you get older, because it's not always about you.
Yeah.
And it's easy, especially in our culture today, is, there's a camera in everybody's face at all times.
Yeah.
Right? So it's easy for people to think that this is about them, when it really isn't.
No, well, and that's it. I love that. I really love that. The one thing I want to touch about that is, it's like, for me, when I'm really, really wanting something, oh man, if I could just hit that mile marker in whatever I'm doing,
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm trying everything that I could possibly do for me to push myself to get to that point. Sometimes it'll be a side note. Okay, I'll pause this for a second. I'll go and help my friend, or go and help someone, and you get tied up in that for a moment, and you think, oh, I gotta hurry up and get back to this. But the time that you just took, you met someone that knows exactly what you need.
Right.
It just happens. You know what I mean? If you've done the work, that's how it usually is. So I would say, yeah, go for everything that you want and really attack it as much as you can. But when you have those side tangents and someone needs a hand, go give them a hand.
Yeah.
Because that's like the biggest thing that you don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know. You know what I mean? Like I was on a wing and prayer doing this, and Ryan opened that door.
Yep. And you never expected it.
No,
right? Like
never.
And that's how a lot of things work out. Brad Stevens, he's the GM for the Boston Celtics now, was a college coach and was the head coach of the Boston Celtics for a while. He famously always had a quote that talked about, when things aren't going well for you, try and make sure it goes well for others.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, usually there's some perspective in your life, or you realize things just aren't that bad. And, some things might work out for you. Whether you're a believer in karma or whatever it is, right? But there's some validity to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's something that, I think players at the college level have to learn is like when you're having a bad game, how are you going to help one of these other guys on the team have a good game? Because guess what? It's not about you. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
And there's expectations to win, to be successful, competitive, whatever it is. And if you're having a bad game, which you're going to, it's going to happen.
Yep.
You're going to have bad days. What is your reaction to it?
Yeah, no.
How are you going to help somebody else be successful? Because ultimately, it's going to end up working out for you.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, it's to be able to reach out and help someone else for a minute. It's not an easy thing to do. People don't just do it naturally. I would say they're more in their own minds. So yeah, shake that off. Yeah, the other adversity about players playing and then having a great run up until they hurt themselves, right?
Right.
Isn't that's got to be one of the biggest challenges that I've noticed talking with the players. Anyone that's had an injury, oh yeah, I had an injury, and you can see it on their face, like they wear that so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is something they pour themselves physically and emotionally into, right? And you can't really control when you have an injury.
Yeah.
There's a lot of prehab type stuff. I mean, our strength and conditioning program here with Coach I and Austin Hilliard, and they do a great job. A lot of time with prehab and trying to make sure we're trying to prevent injuries, but they're gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're putting your body through a lot of tough things to be a college athlete, and eventually something might happen.
Of course.
So I think the easy thing, the emotional thing to do is just to completely shut down when those things happen and get depressed. Who can you lean on when that happens? And how badly do you want to come back and be, what you were?
Yeah. What do you say to them when they're going through the thick of it?
It's a choice of how bad do you want it. It just depends on the scenario.
Yeah.
Some guys need tough love. Some guys don't. Some guys that might make them shut down.
Yeah.
Because some guys earn the right too with their effort and attitude and consistency that you can trust them to figure it out on their own.
Attitude is everything.
They don't need you to be in their ear about it.
Yeah.
And then some, you can always be the voice of reason if it's taking too long, and you say, hey man, like, are you trying to do this or not?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends on who the players are, each guy. I think you have to know your players. You have to develop a relationship, because as much as we all want to say they're the same, they're not. They're completely individual people.
They're all different, man. I've had a few of your guys here now,
Right.
and none of them are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They all have different backgrounds.
Yeah,
right?
which
Everybody
is
has a
kind of
different
fun.
story, and it shapes the way that they handle adversity.
Yeah.
So the challenge is trying to recognize that and figure out the right way to help them through adversity.
Yeah,
There's
get it.
not a script or a playbook of one way to do it or another.
No, I mean, if there was, we'd all be doing it, and then it wouldn't be special.
It'd be
So
easy.
no,
Yeah.
it'd be the
less
easy
people
way.
would be watching sports, and
Yeah.
professional athletes would make less money. So
Yeah, I appreciate it, Shaun. So, what's the future for you? You're just going to keep grinding until you get to. I mean, you're always going to be around basketball, by the sounds of things.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to do this for as long as I can. I mean,
Yeah.
I love it. An ultimate goal for me and a dream has always been a Division I head coach.
Wow.
So hopefully I can get that chance, but just still being in a place to help young men grow, mature, become better basketball players, better people. That's for me.
Oh man, your mindset's there.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, the hour just dissolved so fast.
Oh, holy cow!
You know what I mean?
Didn't
Like
even
it's
feel like it.
no, I know. It's kind of fun.
No, yeah, I
I
appreciate
like
you having me
my
on, man. This is
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. Is there anything you want to say before we head out? Are you?
Yeah, I mean,
wanna
we have our
touch on?
first home game Monday night.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Yeah,
First
we
home
do.
game Monday night, 6:30. We have everybody there.
Yeah,
we need fans, we need season ticket holders, students, everybody. Like, these guys deserve your support.
We need to light it up. Start it off right.
Yeah.
Start it off strong.
Yeah.
One last question for you. Well, let's go. So Monday night, 6:30 here at the AFEC. We're on.
Yeah.
One last question for you, and it could be to do with anything in life, right?
Sure.
What makes the difference?
Oh, man.
Could be a word.
Wow. Attitude and effort.
Attitude and effort. I love it. Yeah, no, there's no joke about that. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, it's
It's a little cliche, a little coaching cliche, but there's some validity to it.
Yeah, I mean, and on the attitude side, you can tell when people have got good attitudes or bad attitudes, and it just takes you everywhere, or it takes you nowhere.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for coming in, Shaun. I appreciate
Appreciate
you.
it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
cheers.
for having me.
No, it's been absolutely fun. We're going to go into Pink Skies. We'll stop that. Thank you, YouTube.